Cbeebies. Today we're going to be looking at the not so great side of Cbeebies and counting down the top 10 worst shows on Cbeebies. Now I know what you're thinking, all the modern shows are the worst. And well, yes, I totally agree with you. They're going to make up all 10, and that's not what I really want to do today. So for this list, I'm only going to be doing shows which are pre-2010. So here are the top 10 worst CBeebies shows, and if you like one of these shows, that's fine. And maybe just say in the comment section why you liked it. Number 10 is Something Special. Now, I appreciate how this show might be important to some people because it teaches deaf kids sign language, which is great. But the show itself is just kind of boring and repetitive, and it talks down to children, which I think is really one of the worst things you can do in a children's show. And whilst I think, yes, Mr. Tumble is an iconic character, he doesn't actually really do much. He just sort of talks about, like, random objects. He's just got, like, random objects scattered around a room in a white background, and he just talks about them and sings nursery rhymes, which is just kind of cringy and just boring. Number 9, Charlie and Lola. I just feel like Lola is an incredibly annoying character. And, I mean, Charlie is just, he has the patience of Job. Yeah, I'm talking biblical proportions. I think he just sets unrealistic high expectations for younger siblings. I've got younger siblings, and well, I'm not patient with them at all. I'm a massive dickhead. But Charlie is just he's an incredibly bland character, and I feel that the background characters like Marv and Lotta are also incredibly bland. Though I mean, it is nice how sort of kind Charlie is, but I mean, how can you deal with this little shit Lola all the time and just constantly just be nice to her? I just feel that in a lot of the stories, Charlie kind of he kind of gets the injustice of the story, and then Lola always ends up winning, and there's like no consequences for her. I just find she's just very unlikable as a character. Number 8 is The Large Family. I just find it's a very forgettable show. It's like a family that's incredibly generic. It's just like four children who have like different personalities, but it's all just so predictable and boring. I just kind of feel like bad for the parents because they've got to deal with like annoying kids like Lucy. I mean, most of them are fairly likable, but I think Lester is kind of portrayed as a teenager, but I just feel like it gives teenagers a bad name. That's why I think a lot of children they are like scared of teenagers and think teenagers are evil. I think one of the reasons is just because like Lester is portrayed as an unlikable character, but he's like the only sane person there. I mean, I mean, the parents are also fairly sane, but none of them have a particularly interesting personality. It's just a very boring show. Number 7 is In the Night Garden. I mean, the characters are just, well, first of all, just look at them. They are all just fucking ugly. And, I mean, I think we all know that. And, like, hardly anything really happens in the episodes. In a way, it's kind of like Teletubbies, but, I mean, Teletubbies was a good show. It was iconic. And, yeah, they had like a narrator who was kind of explaining what was going on, but these characters couldn't really, unlike the Teletubbies, the characters in The Night Garden, they don't really talk properly. They can just say their own names, but the narrator has to basically explain what's going on because, well, I mean, not a lot really happens at all. It's just incredibly boring, and the characters are just kind of cringy. And there's just nothing really worth talking about in this show, and I've no idea why so many people like it. Number 6 is Take a Bow. And this show was basically just like a talent show about kids all over the country. It just was not interesting at all. I mean, I know they're only kids, but even at the time, they would have been my peers, people my age. Even I found them kind of mediocre, but the show itself was just so bloody boring and cringy, and just not really worthy of having its own show. It's just like a kids' talent show. Number 5, Our Planet. This was just like a nature documentary about just animals. I mean, that was okay for animals, but it was just kind of boring compared with like most of the other shows. It just wasn't entertaining. It was just a documentary, which I mean, the target audience would have found pretty damn boring. And that's all I really have to say about it. Number 4, Fifi and the Flowertots. I mean, yeah, I'm not exactly the target audience being a bloke, but they're just this show is just so cringy. All the characters are ugly. They all have cringy voices. It's just a kind of a generic like TV show about some characters where some situation happened to them. But there are just so many other ones, and this is just you know mediocre and cringy and boring and annoying. Number 3 is Weibaloo. It was just about these creepy things with like high, whispery, creepy children's voices, and just them. There wasn't really any standard plot for it. It was just like them kind of just singing, giggling, and just floating around. I mean, I have no idea. I had no idea what it was back then. I mean, admittedly, when it came out, I was a bit old for Cbeebies, but it was just so boring and just creepy. It really made Boobar seem normal in comparison to Waberloo. Number 2, Get Squiggling. Now we've already got good shows like Smartinis and Mr. Maker. Why do they feel the need to make another one? This show was just, ugh. All it really did was just show children how to draw. It didn't really do anything else. No other sort of types of artwork or anything. Just drawing with crayons, or as they call them, like squiggle sticks, or whatever they call them. And the real red flag for me is just, I don't even need to explain. Look at that thing. I mean, why would anyone want to have a show with that ugly fucking thing on the screen? It's just like, how does this show even exist? And above all, it talks down to children, which, as we've already discussed, is the worst thing you can do with a kids' show. Before I get to number 1, here are a few dishonorable mentions. Razzle Dazzle, Green Balloon Club, Big and Small, Mama Mirabelle's Home Movies, I Can Cook. And the number 1 worst pre-2010 Cbeebies show is Boogie fucking Beebies, or Boogie Beebies as it's usually known. This show was just about these two annoying presenters who are overly enthusiastic, having like children dance in front of a background. It was just mind-numbingly boring and cringy, and they even like were encouraging us, the viewers, to actually dance, like that was actually supposed to be fun. I mean, for God's sake, how can anyone enjoy this? I mean, if you did enjoy that, yeah, that's fine. But I just hated it so much as a kid. And I just love how at the beginning the presenter Pete, you said you can do as much as you want or as little as you like. Thank you. I think I will do as little as I like. I think I was just sort of not into moving around. It was just interactive, which I just think is an incredibly cringy and childish thing to do. I mean, sure, it didn't talk down to children as much as some of the other shows, but there really is no topping the cringiness and the stupid sounding music that comes from this show. And that's why, in my opinion, Boogie Beebies is the worst Cbeebies show. But I would easily say it is easily better What the hell? What did I just say? I said easily twice. Never mind. I would definitely say this show beats virtually any of the shows on the Cbeebies today, because I do not even want to think about what shit goes on now. I just feel like I feel sorry for the kind of the new, not generation, but children growing up today, like watching Cbeebies, because they just do not get any of the decent TV that we had growing up.